Welcome, everyone. We're just getting started here. Awesome to see attendees pouring in. Looks like we have an audience from all over the world. Give us a minute or two. We're going to let a few more people trickle in, and then we're going to dive right in. Thank you so much to everyone for really submitting some incredible questions, making our job very easy, but I think it also highlighted how much complexity there is when it comes to tax filings and when it comes to understanding what's required for your business. And I'm sure there's a mix of folks here who currently have businesses, folks who are aspiring entrepreneurs, the whole spectrum. So what we're going to do is really dive in today. We're just getting things set up here, and we have a tax expert on the call. His name is Jiv. He runs and leads tax operations at Doola. So we're going to make this as informative as possible. This session is recorded too. So I know there's probably many entrepreneurs here who are taking studious or taking very robust notes. Feel free to do that. But again, there will be a recording. We can send that out too. And for folks here as well, we have 30 minutes blocked out, but we have a special offer, which we are going to be saving until the end to thank everyone for their time. We like to say to Doola customers, and they realize this too, founder or entrepreneur time is the single most valuable source of time. Your time is incredibly high leverage. We appreciate that you're here. So stay tuned until the end. We have a special offer. Hint, hint, it's related to tax season. And we're super helpful to, again, be willing to help educate people. And at a minimum, if we can help provide tax support through Doola, and we'll share more about that, then we're obviously eager to do that. So we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes. I know I'm seeing more people trickle in. Why don't we do this while we're waiting? In the group chat, if everyone can comment where in the world they are based, I'm going to start. I'm based in New York City. We are right by Madison Square Park. If anyone else is in New York City on this call, we should meet up. But in the chat there, just comment down really quickly where in the world you are, and let's see how global this is. So we got Toronto, Canada, Nigeria, the UK, Brazil, wow, Bali, Indonesia, France, North Carolina, Colombia. We got another New York City. Okay, that's Jiv. New Delhi, India, Switzerland, Bangalore, Netherlands, Hong Kong, Turkey. Wow, this is an incredibly global audience. I hope for some of the folks on the other side of the world, it's not too late. We're getting started here in New York City. It's 10 a.m., but I hope people aren't drinking caffeine too late. And thank you so much for tuning in. In the future, we will be doing more of these, and we will try to find different times too to make it as easy as possible. So yeah, give it 1 more second. Let's give it another minute, and we'll get started. We have a Panda here. Oh, wow. Australia at 1 a.m. So I think we have 11 p.m. in Bali too. Australia at 1 a.m. That might be the latest. Anne-Marie, I hope are you a night owl, or are you just staying up late? If you are, we'll try to make this as action-packed and as valuable as possible, but incredible to see you tuning in here. Set an alarm. Okay, that is incredible. So yeah, give me 1 second. What we're just trying to lastly figure out is see if we can get just some video set up for Jiv here. Thank you for the kind words there, Daniel. And awesome to hear you're coming live from Panama as well.
Recording in progress.
Great. And then something I'm already seeing that folks are doing is we have a Q&A section here. So we might not hit everything, but feel free to toss extra questions in there. I see a couple trickling in. And again, we're going to try to hit the top questions live today, but we will be trying to follow and answer every specific question because, hey, look, your business might have a unique circumstance, and we want to make sure that we can help answer if possible. So thanks for bearing with us. Just give us 1 more minute. In the classic age of Zoom, we're just finalizing a little video issue here, and then we'll jump right in. Let's do 1 more question because I'm very curious about this. In the chat, can everyone just write a one-liner? So this is a question all entrepreneurs get on either what your business is today or what your business will be. So like, I'll give an example here. Doola is, let me just write this. Okay, if everyone can just jot down a one-liner on either their current business or what their future business will be.
All right, I got my video working.
Boom, there we go. We got Jiv here. Okay, awesome.
I'm here now.
Awesome. So let's just take a look. There's some messages trickling in. We got travel, we got management software, interior design, urban clothing. Okay, you can see we have the doola swag here. We might need to use this company, software consulting, e-commerce, marketing agency, Amazon sellers. Okay, this is awesome. Let's dive right in. So we have Jiv here, who is a official US CPA, works at Doola, knows the tax code very well, and the tax code is incredibly complex. I actually think it's the most complex document, maybe in the US. The Constitution is hard to read, but the IRS tax code is incredibly complex. So let's dive right in. For the next 20-ish minutes, I'm going to put Jiv on the spot here and ask him a summary of the top questions that we've received. And again, if you have specific questions post this, we have them recorded. We'll try to send answers, but let's actually start with one question, which we get a lot, and I'm going to run through these. So the very first question is this. Let's say you have a US business and you have no income, no expenses, and no activity yet. So you just started your business. And again, I know there's current entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs here. So again, to recap the question, you just started your business, you have no income, no expenses, no activity, and you are a single member, foreign-owned LLC or corporation, meaning you are based outside of the US. Jiv, the question here, do you need to file taxes? And if so, what taxes do you have to file?
Yeah, so I mean, that's by far one of the most common questions I've been getting in these consultations, especially since tax season gets closer. So basically, if you're a single, foreign-owned LLC and, you have no activity during the year, no income, no expenses, generally, that's one of the only situations where you don't actually have to file, Form 5472, right? And I mean, absolutely no activity. Where this ends up tripping, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs up is, they start a business maybe in November of last year or December of last year, and they don't spend any money on expenses. They don't make any money in revenue. Yet they maybe put $5,000 into a bank account here in the United States in the name of their business. That would actually be considered, even though it's not income or expenses, enough activity to warrant that we need to file, Form 5472, which I can talk about in more detail later on, but really it's just the related party disclosure that every single foreign-owned disregarded entity basically has to file. So if you really have not even performed a capital contribution, right, for your company, you haven't spent any money on expenses, made any money off revenue, then no, I would say in general, you don't actually have any filing requirement here in the US. That's not to say that you don't need to kind of schedule a meeting with me, the CPA, or, talk to us about taxes, because for the most part, as I've talked through, kind of this form with a lot of founders, there are a lot of, transactions that you don't think matter that would actually matter if you don't disclose to the IRS and kind of warrant, that immediate $25,000 fine. So at the very least, I would reach out, consult with me, and we'll go over kind of your, your entire business situation from last year. So yeah, if you have no activity, no filing, but still need to talk to a CPA because there's just so many things that could be considered activity.
Awesome. So I'm just going to do, Jiv is the tax expert here. I'm going to do, in as best as layman's terms, do a little summary. So my understanding here is, even if you have no income, no expenses, no activity, if there's absolutely nothing, then there's a decent chance there might not have to be a filing. But as Jiv said, there are certain transactions or certain money inflows or outflows that actually might count as a reportable transaction. And as Jiv mentioned, and this is actually very true and a crazy number, there is a $25,000 fine that the IRS can impose for a late or incorrect filing for this form called Form 5472. And we'll talk more about that. So as Jiv said, I think playing it safe is the best thing to do. Is grab some time, talk to a CPA, and just make sure, you want that peace of mind that going forward, You don't have to worry or stress about, hey, should I have done a filing or not? One extra question I'm going to add in here is, Jiv, what are the deadlines or the cutoff points for those filings? And maybe now, a good question is, let's say you formed a business in 2022 versus in 2023. If you do have to do a tax filing, when are those tax filings actually due? When is the latest time you can actually submit them as well?
Yeah, so tax season here in the US, just for some background for people who aren't familiar with how taxes work, here in our country. Tax season begins January 23rd, goes all the way to April 15th every single year for the preceding year. So what that means is if you started a business, at any point in 2022, you had any activity, we have to file your taxes pretty much within that time frame, and it depends on what kind of business you are, right? If you're a corporation, right, you need to have your taxes filed by March 15th, of the following year. So if you're a corporation from 2022, right now, your taxes from 2022 are going to be due on March 15th, this upcoming month. For single member LLCs that have to kind of, file that Form 5472 if they're foreign owned, those are going to be due April 15th, the same day as kind of the individual returns for a US citizen. So those are the due dates. It's the way the tax years work here in the US is our taxes are due always that, following spring. So that's what tax season is. So 2022, it'll be due in the next few months.
Awesome. So just to recap there again, if you are a foreign owned, or you have a corporation, multiple member LLC, so there's multiple folks in that company, or a corporation, we're looking at a March 15th deadline. If you are a single member LLC, so one person, we're looking at April 15th. However, and we'll touch on this later, although there can be a nice, or not nice, I'd say a common tendency to leave things to the last minute. When it comes to taxes, that's probably something you shouldn't do. You don't want to run into a hidden obstacle, added complexity. This is something which, and it's great, folks are already here 2 months or even a month before the deadline, being proactive and trying to understand when a filing is due. And again, to recap, if you formed your business from January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, you then have a tax filing potentially due for that tax season, which would be due in the next month or so. If you formed your business this year, so in this calendar year of 2023, then the filing would be submitted the following year. But hey, if you formed and you're here learning, kudos to you. You're staying on top of things. Okay, let's keep running through. Keep the questions coming. Second question is, you've determined, or you've done a chat with doola, with someone else, etc., and it's determined, hey, I have a filing that is due in the next month or so. What documents do I need to provide to the CPA in order to file taxes, and when do those documents have to be submitted or given?
Yeah, that's also the most common question, I'd say, probably for pretty much every client so far. They're always concerned with, do I have to keep every single receipt? Do I have to keep every single invoice? Do I need to provide you with, like some of our Amazon, e-sellers, they're like, do I need to give you thousands of invoices for every single sale? And the answer is no, you don't need to do that, right? And I think that would make your tax filing kind of impossible in terms of timing for me to review every single one of those. Really what we rely on, I would say, here in the US as CPAs is we rely on, two main things. If you have a bookkeeper, or if you are, savvy with accounting on your end and do it yourself, we will ask for your financial statements every single year if you have them completed. What that means is an income statement, if you've been tracking that, a balance sheet, if you've been tracking that, and they don't have to be perfect. They don't need to be extremely clean. They don't need to be directly from an accounting software. I've gotten support back that is just income statements, kind of made in Excel, kind of manually tracking every single expense, very manually. If that's what you have, great, still provide it to us. And the reason is, even if it's not perfect, it gives me as a CPA or any other CPA who's working on your return, it gives us an idea of where we can start, right, with what is going to be reported on your taxes. Because otherwise, we have to essentially recreate all of that on our own and have no basis to go off of. So that's the first thing, we'll always ask for. The second thing that is probably more important in terms of documentation is definitely, we're going to ask for your bank statements, investment account statements, credit card statements, any real asset account statements from, the tax year. We're going to ask for all of them for the full year, right? And that's because when it comes to the IRS, they expect basically two halves to documentation for, expenses. The first half is, the date, how much money was spent. They want me to confirm that the money was actually sent out. That's what I'm kind of doing by checking, all of your bank statements and credit card statements. The next part, and this is the part where I think a lot of customers assume that CPAs need this to file, is the IRS wants you to have an itemized receipt for most expenses. That only matters if you actually get audited by the IRS. For the most part, for a CPA to be comfortable with signing off on your return, we're not going to go through every single receipt. We may ask it in some circumstances. If some expenses are higher than others and we think it's weird, we might ask for it. But in general, those are the two main things we just rely on: financial statements and all of your asset account statements. Anything else depends on a client by client basis with each CPA, right? The only other thing I would say there, not to go too long on this specific topic, but the IRS through court cases throughout the past couple of decades have basically said, if an expense is under $75, you're not going to need a specific receipt for it. It's ridiculous to assume, every single small business can keep, hundreds of receipts, a lot of them paid in cash for like food or other small items. The IRS doesn't expect you to keep track of that. They expect you to keep records of it so that you understand when it happened and what it was for, but you don't need to keep a detailed receipt for every single expense under $75. If it's over 75, yeah, you absolutely should. But yeah, that's just something I'd like to say, since that's also a common question we've been getting.
Awesome. Thank you, Jiv. And I think one thing I'm actually thinking or realizing to myself here is it can sound a bit scary to think, holy crap, I need to have receipts or document every transaction. And this is actually why there's a major benefit to actually setting up your entity or LLC and then having a business bank account tied to it with bookkeeping or some tracking software integrated from the get-go, because then you have peace of mind that these transactions are already categorized. And then paying a CPA, or if whether you're doing it on your own, everything's already there, versus doing this solo and taking pictures of paper receipts, etc. So that's some super helpful context on which which transactions fall into which bucket. But again, I think there's a lot of value here to getting set up properly. So the other thing I'll say is it's okay if you're at this point and maybe haven't done that. There's ways to get the situation fixed, but the earlier you are in the process and the earlier you can get things set up properly, the more peace of mind you'll have going forward. Okay, I'm going to jump through to the next couple of questions. Next question here is, let's come back to Form 5472, which is the filing for these non or foreign owned LLCs or corporations, single members. What are reportable transactions for Form 5472? And what transactions would cause me to need to file taxes in the US? What does it mean to be engaged in US trade or business?
Yeah, so I'll just answer the Form 5472 part first, right? So the only way kind of as a foreign-owned single-member LLC to get out of filing Form 5472 is to truly be inactive, meaning no transactions, et cetera, which we covered kind of earlier in the webinar. The types of things that need to be disclosed right on Form 5472 are, it would take much longer than this call to go through every single one of them, right? But I can give kind of my general opinion of different categories that most owners are probably going to run into. The things that I'll absolutely, as part of your tax preparation, be asking you for, because these are going to be transactions that we disclose in detail on Form 5472, is kind of the following. If you contribute any money as a foreign individual to your U.S. business, if I see those deposits coming in on the bank statement, I'm absolutely going to ask for further details, proof from your personal bank statement that it is actually a related party transaction. I'm going to drill down further into that, because that's one of the main, kind of transactions we need to disclose for most of our clients. If you're a business owner and you decide that you're going to take withdrawals out of your business and actually pay yourself from your U.S. business, yeah, it might not be taxable, right, depending on your circumstance, but we still need to disclose that fully to the IRS in this informational return, right? So those are the two main categories. Beyond that, there's a decent amount of our clients that say, well, I have a company that operates out of, my home country, and I would like to invoice my US company, or I would like to, process the expenses through the US company, and have some sort of cost sharing agreement. That absolutely is probably the most important and the most audited of the IRS lines, I'd say, when it comes to Form 5472. When you have a foreign business that you own and you're doing business with a US business that you also own. It's kind of the main point of this related party form, right? So those are the main categories, I'd say. A lot of owners also sometimes out of their personal card pay expenses for their business, right? Those would need to be disclosed, right? If you're planning on claiming them as business expenses. And in that case, I would have to ask for your personal credit card or statements or bank statements. Redacted, obviously. I don't want the full year of personal statements, but I do need to see that expense kind of coming through and it being related to you as a business owner, because your business is essentially an extension of you, is kind of how the IRS views it, right? So those are, I'd say, the main transactions we're running into this year, and especially the ones that owners are forgetting or not thinking are important to disclose because they're not income, right? It's just a contribution. But that contribution, if you don't disclose it, is going to cost a $25,000 fine, right? So it's better to just go ahead and mention it and get it filed.
Awesome. So thank you for that rundown there. And again, for folks, you can sort of hear that there's this key factor again on what does it mean to be engaged in US trade or business. And again, if you're a little confused or still not entirely sure, the best thing to do is, we have documentation on this as a company, but always, like, if you can chat, do this two ways, locally with someone in your country, and then also with a US CPA, that can help sort out or clear things out. But again, you sort of heard a rundown here of what types of transactions or what types of activity would fall into certain buckets. Okay, as we head towards the end here, we're going to do one more question. And then again, thanks for folks for staying. We have a lot of new folks joining until the end. And we do have a special offer here that we want to present to folks in order to help them really just have peace of mind and feel good about their tax situation. But the final question here, this is the question, maybe I will say the $1 million question that we get asked all the time. And it's this: can a foreign owned business be fully tax free? Meaning, can you actually form a business outside the US or form a US business from outside the US, or even in the US, we can touch on both, and not pay US taxes, or maybe minimize US taxes? But let's ask Jiv here. Let's put him on the spot. Jiv, can a foreign owned business be fully tax free and not pay or avoid US taxes? And if that isn't the case, again, what taxes or what filings are required?
To answer that, and most of our clients have this situation, right? You're not going to be surprised by the answer, Arjun, right? But yeah, you can absolutely be a foreign-owned business here in the United States, and depending on your type of business, right, basically pay no income taxes here in the United States, not require any filings to pay taxes here in the United States, and it's really just entirely dependent on your business type, and if you're kind of engaged in US trade or business, and to kind of split it into two different categories. One, the easy category, where I usually answer it on a call within a minute, and then the other one, which kind of is a more detailed discussion. But if you're performing online services, right, like you're actually performing a service online, maybe it's design, maybe it's consulting, whatever it is, and you're doing it all online from your home country, right? The way that we kind of view services to be taxable here in the United States is where is the service being performed, right? Like that's the kind of the go-to line that we use to defend this stance of it not being taxable. If you're not performing a service in the United States, which is kind of what the IRS law says, in the United States, we don't see it to be taxable, and that's kind of the position we've always been taking. So if you're performing a service from, let's say, your computer in your home country, we believe it should be taxable in your home country. We just need to file an informational form with the Form 5472, right? And generally, it will be taxable back there. And this is specifically for foreign-owned single-member LLCs and LLCs in general. But That's the approach for services, right? For e-commerce sellers, usually, or if you're selling product into the United States, it's a little bit more complicated. And I highly recommend you reaching out and obviously like scheduling a consultation or talking to a CPA to discuss. But basically, it comes down to one, do you have physical presence in the United States? Meaning, do you have an office here? Do you have a warehouse here? Do you have employees that you pay here? Is there a partner in your business and that partner happens to live in the United States? Those are the types of things that would kind of indicate, well, maybe this product is actually taxable in the United States. It's not that simple because I know that many of our customers, right, they use Amazon FBA, right, for fulfillment, for distribution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in that case, right, it's kind of a gray area in our tax code. For the most part, the stance that we take is if the product is coming outside of the United States and Amazon FBA is kind of the one distributing it out and things like that, it's not taxable. We say that it's not engaged in U.S. trade or business because your inventory is made outside of the U.S. But other clients that I've had that have actually had their inventory being manufactured here in the United States, right? So the inventory stays here in the US, it goes to Amazon FBA, and then it gets sold to a US client. Well, in that case, it's a little bit more kind of gray. Like, is it really taxable in the US or not? This is something that you would need to talk about in a consultation for me to kind of make a final decision on. It just kind of depends on how much of your business really is involved in selling that product here in the US. So that's just kind of to explain the two categories and kind of explain why maybe if you're selling product, it gets a little bit more complicated, and also to encourage you to reach out and book some time to talk.
Okay, well, I'm going to summarize here. And this is, again, based on the analysis of the US tax code. But if you are not, again, physically based in the US, doing actual physical presence work here, then technically you're paying taxes in the country or place you're based. But there still might be this informational filing or a filing that needs to be done in the United States. So again, I think the thing which maybe trips people up here is that it's not that you are, or it is that you are avoiding, or you don't have to pay US taxes. There's no income tax here. Income is paid where it's earned in your country, but to stay compliant, there oftentimes is a filing that needs to be made to the United States too. So I think, again, there's a distinction there. It could be that there's a filing, could be that there's not. But again, if you're this digital business, you're based internationally, as Jiv said, then there is a world or way where, again, based on your business, you're not paying income tax in the US, and you'd be paying taxes in your country specifically. Okay, we're actually at the top of the half hour. As entrepreneurs, we're always learning and iterating. So I think, in the future, we will be doing these again. Do not worry. And in the future, we might extend these. There are other questions coming in, which we didn't potentially get to answer as well, too. So here's what we're going to do. And now I want to share the offer with folks as well. First thing is, we have all the questions here. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions before, too. Our team is hard at work, and we are going to be creating content, maybe even some video answers for all these specific questions so that folks now, in the past, and the future can watch these, share them with your friends. These are very common questions. And then the second thing is, special offer for folks now. I'm going to be dropping a link, and I'll keep this link up. I know we're about to hit 30 minutes or top of the half hour. We're going to be dropping a link for actually a free consultation with Doola. And in this consultation, you'll be able to actually ask specific tax questions, or just, get that peace of mind around, hey, what filing is due when? Can I get help with Doola? Can Doola help me with a specific filing? Or, hey, again, maybe you have a solution, you're doing them on your own. That's okay. End of day, we want to be able to provide the right education. So we actually opened up extra slots for the rest of this week. I know we have folks all over the world, so we're trying to open up time zone slots too. I'm dropping a link here. If you fill out this form, and somewhere in the form, there's a notes or extra comments question, please type or mention that you joined this webinar in that. So this flow should take about a few minutes to fill out, maybe a little longer, depending on how much detail you'd like to add. But for everyone here, the offer, please fill out that form. You can get a one-on-one consultation, and we'll be able to add extra color or just clarify anything you have on the US tax front. The second thing is this. Obviously, our end goal at the end of the day is to help provide the right education. We have customers who tell us all the time, there's lots of migraine-inducing information on Google. And the reason for that is there's just so much misinformation out there and different information. And, it can be a little confusing to understand what's right and what's right for your business. So what we're doing is tax season is rapidly approaching, and Doola actually has a total compliance package, which involves a lot of these requirements: IRS tax filings, state tax filings, even bookkeeping. And that could be whether or not you've started with us. We can retroactively help clean up your books so that things are totally in order. For folks who sign up by next Friday, and we're not doing this Friday because we want folks to have time to schedule a consultation, do some thinking, and make sure they feel fully confident about the decision. For folks who sign up by next Friday, we're actually able to serve you for this tax season. Now, it's not that we can't serve you beyond that, but Jiv and the team here, we're quite slammed with our existing customers. And given the demand there's going to be a late filing fee for folks who submit information too close to the deadline. And I think, as Jiv was saying earlier, there are documents that need to be submitted. There are documents that need to be reviewed. And if those documents are submitted a day before the deadline, someone's staying up to review them. I mean, it's Jiv. Jiv needs to sleep as well.
It's gonna be me.
It'll be Jiv. So yeah, we don't want that happening. And at a certain point, unfortunately, we have to say no, too close before the deadline. So again, the two offers we want to give to folks is, one, please use that link. I'll drop it here again for a free consultation. There'll be an email going out too, so don't worry. Somewhere again in that form, please mention you joined this webinar so we know that you were here. Yeah, if folks can't see the link, I'm dropping it in the chat, but don't sweat. There'll be an email that goes out to everyone who signed up here. And the second thing, again, is you have 10 days. Like, we want to give you time. Oh, looks like folks can't see the link. Interesting. Let me do this. You can only see your text. Give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can pop this into the Q&A. Give me 1 second here. Oh, it's answered live. Okay, here's what we'll do. It's very strange that people can't see what I'm messaging to hosts and panelists here, but don't sweat. There will be an email going out with the link. Again, we'll send this right out after. Sign up for that link, schedule that consultation, mention you came to this webinar. We'll send it to everyone. And the last thing is, again, we want to be able to help you with these filings, not required, of course, but by next Friday, the 17th, if you're able to sign up with Doola, we'll be able to keep the cost we have now without any late filing fee. And again, let's say you have a friend who maybe hears about us late, we can help, but we want to be quite candid with folks that if it's too close to the deadline, we're either unable to serve you or the cost has to go up because there's limited supply on our side. There's only one Jiv. We do have extra tax help, but we want to make sure that we can actually do these compliantly and get your filing done properly on time. So once again, thank you so much for attending. This was absolutely incredible to see this type of energy from founders all over the world. I mean, yeah, the countries, Bali, Australia, and I hope you get some sleep, catch up on sleep, but awesome to see you here at 1 a.m. And stay tuned. We will be doing more of these events. We will be sharing out more content, and I'll just recap the offer one more time. Consultation for anyone who joined here, that'll be sent out after email. And then the second thing is we'll be able to keep, if you guys can submit your total compliance information before next Friday to work with Doola, we can lock in that price before tax season. And worst case scenario, again, if it is too close to tax season, we can help, but there will be a late filing fee. So it's awesome to see everyone here a month or two before the deadline. Like, lock in that price. Let's avoid any late filing fees. Let's have full peace of mind about getting your tax filings in on time. And the last thing I'll say is, we know that you guys all know founders from all around the world. If your friends have questions, tell them to come check out Doola. We'll be scheduling more of these events too. And again, if you didn't get every question answered, even after the consultation, tune in. We'll be doing these hint, probably weekly, maybe even monthly. I don't know if we'll do daily, we'll see, but our goal is to put as much content out as possible. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of their week.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.